Right behind you could be Kong.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
And this is an RKO Radio Picture. And also, we watch monster movies. Today's movie is King Kong. King Kong is a 1933 monster adventure film directed by Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack. Starring Fay Wray, Robert Armstrong, and Bruce Cabot.
Well, we're going to make the best picture in the world, but we can't get any women in it. So our main lead, whose name I will always forget, what's it listed as?
Who?
Our main dude. Gunham?
Denham.
Like the jeans. Okay. Denham.
It's not spelled like that, but yeah.
Goes out, gets pretty lady off the street because everybody's poor.
Because it's the Depression.
He's like, hey, pretty lady, get on this boat. We're going to make some money and you're going to be famous. And she's like, hooray! And they get on the boat and they go into the sea. And then no one knows where they're at except, Denham. And he's got this map that he got from like a dude who got it from a dude who got it from another dude who died in a ship crash out in the ocean because stuff. And then they find out there's tribes people and then Kong kidnaps them. And then they kidnap Kong and they bring him to New York. And well, Kong isn't really good in the concrete jungle, so he gets shot by Beauty.
Yeah.
A lot.
Wasn't planes that killed him. It was Beauty. Which is like 100% not true. I mean, I guess it's not 100% not true. It's vaguely true because, he probably could have escaped if he hadn't wanted to stay close to the girl, but it was mostly the planes. I mean, he did get shot with Beauty.
I do want to kind of see like a close-up of like one of the dudes who was running the planes and he's like carved in Beauty into his machine gun. He's just kind of sweating bullets and he wipes off. He has got like a glazed look in his eyes because he doesn't trust the government and he's just waiting for World War II. Like that dude. Yeah. And
this is my machine gun. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
Yeah.
And it is called Beauty.
Yes. and he nods when he hears Denham say it. Like, yes.
And its name is Beauty is better. I screwed it up. Which I'll get it out of the way right here at the top, because we've already belabored the point in at least the Peter Jackson one. I don't remember if I did in the most recent one, or I think I probably did in Jeff Bridges?
Jeff Bridges.
One, because it's a little more of a thing in that. But I've always had a fundamental problem with the King Kong story that it's hard for me to invest in, because I just always think, what does an ape need with a girl? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all, and I don't have any emotional attachment to it, and it's hard for me to care about it. At least in this case, we didn't get the she cares about him too part that we got in the Peter Jackson one.
Yeah.
Because that's especially bogus, because what does a girl need with an ape? At least in a,
giant gorilla.
Giving him the eyes kind of way.
Hey, he gave her the eyes.
He gave her the eyes. Well, and it's, I don't know if it's, if they sat down in the model shop and said, let's give him a rape face. Or if it just happened that way, because it's hard to make an ape-looking face smile in the way that they wanted to, and so it turns out that way. But either way, he's got his rape face on.
Yeah, it's really rape.
Which, I mean, what else could it possibly be? Because it's not like she's consenting to any part of this. So even if it never goes all the way there, it's still... There's force going on in what's happening to her. Although those tribes folk, they're kind of responsible too, because I do kind of wonder if, the wall is there, which I feel like maybe the wall is there to keep out like the dinosaurs or something, maybe, because it seems like Kong could probably climb up the wall if he wanted to, because he climbs other things at various points that are much taller.
Yeah.
You know, the Empire State Building is taller than the wall.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's keeping him out. So maybe that's the reason for the needing to give him a girl every now and then. Although in this case, we assume it's a commonplace ritual, or at least a from time to time ritual. We don't have the skeletons of previous women laying about like we do in the Peter Jackson one. So we don't necessarily know that this has ever happened before, but it seems like probably that this is not the first time, because, you know, a ritual kind of definitionally takes place over and over.
Yeah.
But it's
well, that's one of the things that kind of interests me, because this isn't the first King Kong movie I had watched, because I had seen others, and then I finally got my hands on this one, and then I watched it. And
I think it probably is the first one I saw, because like I never saw the Jeff Bridges one or the Peter Jackson one. I don't remember, at least, until we watched them for the show. And I'm pretty sure I saw at least most of this one at some point in time, probably on like Turner Classic Movies or something.
Yeah. Because like I know there's like a lot of gorilla movies.
There are, yeah,
and
both old and new.
Yeah, and so just kind of as time progressed, and I got my hands on movies, just what order they were actually watched in. I know this one wasn't the first, and I'd say this is probably only maybe the third time I've seen this movie, and that's being kind of generous. Like I know I've watched it one other time at least. The second time it could be a hit or miss, but when it comes to it, I always kind of. This movie was really, really important for a specific generation that turned into filmmakers. But the Peter Jackson one, I feel, kind of stands out a little bit more to me. I know it is longer. I know there is quite a bit more to it. Like, and it's not perfect. But
no,
I always come to the thought that they say that one of the reasons why it's longer is because they added the stuff into it that they wanted to have added into this one. And Peter Jackson was just like, screw it, we'll just add it in anyways. That's why there's like the worm scene, like all the stuff on the boat, all the stuff before the boat, the ice skating thing.
Crickets, or whatever they are, locusts, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, and so there's like all of these things that is said that like, oh yeah, we wanted to put it in the movie, we just couldn't. For whatever reason. And I'm not sure, having watched this one really freshly, I don't know if it would have done it any good. Like, okay.
I don't think so. I think I do prefer this one. And like sometimes you want to do something that you don't get to do, and sometimes that makes the better thing. Sometimes what you want is not the best thing you could have made, and working under restriction makes a better thing. I would much rather watch this one than the Peter Jackson one. Because I think most of the added stuff is just extra and doesn't really add enough for the amount of time that it takes up, and for the amount of slowing down of everything that it does. I understand them maybe wanting to have a few more monster scenes, but it doesn't really need it.
What's interesting is that in the original, we have the plesiosaur. No, it was a brontosaurus. We have the stegosaurus that they gas and shoot in the head. We have the brontosaurus that for some reason is inside the lake, and then we have like the snake-like creature because it has arms and legs.
Yeah, and I don't really know exactly what it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
it's some vague prehistoric thing.
And so we have these three things that are in this one, which are not included in the Peter Jackson one. But in the Peter Jackson, we got the worm locust scene. And we have the stampede of the plant, the herbivore dinosaurs. There's various kinds.
Yeah.
But the T-Rex scene is also stretched out longer, so there's two instead of one.
It's stretched out, yeah, and there's all of the T-Rex understands physics and momentum and stuff in that one that's not here. I think that I guess some of that stuff, like I remember complaining about how the locust scene goes on for a very long, unnecessary time. But a lot of the stuff that's really unnecessary that I guess couldn't possibly be here is we're going to spend a really long time making sure you understand that we recreated the 1930s, which they don't have to do here because they're literally in the 1930s. So
Yes.
there's nothing to recreate, and it isn't exceptional, and it's not impressive. It's just like, hey, look, it's a movie in the present time, and we happen to be in the 1930s, and so there's nothing to add. I do think that having her just be in like a soup kitchen line or something is a better... It puts her in a much more desperate position and gives her more reason to just go with him in all of his vagueness than, well, I had like this theater job that didn't go as well as I wanted it to, and so I guess I'll just like jump into the ocean. Yeah. So it's like, well, I understand it's the Depression, but you might get another theater part or something. It's a little extreme to just go off on this ocean thing without having any idea where you're going or what you're doing, and he's kind of creeping on you at the restaurant. And they do have the cafes, like the diner scene, the same way that they do in the Peter Jackson one, but it kind of seems like, oh, you probably haven't eaten in a while because you were in a soup kitchen line. And so it makes it easier to believe that she's just kind of being like, it's like, what's she gonna do if she stays in town?
Yeah,
like she doesn't have a job, she doesn't have any money, she's like waiting to get her coffee and sinkers in the morning, and it's not she doesn't have much of an outlook or prospect. So having her go with him seems much more believable.
With that, there's a few scenes where he gives money out because she does. I don't want to say she's caught stealing because she hasn't done anything yet, but the guy like starts harassing her about it. So he just shows up and he's like, "Here's $1, go away."
Yeah.
And you can just like see like I have money, screw you, leave me be.
Uh-huh.
And then he just kind of drags her off, and then he takes her to the diner. Now the difference with this is in this movie, he doesn't feel creepy like Jack Black's character.
Yeah, he doesn't feel creepy.
You know, like he's a bit more like sticky fingers.
The part of creepy will be played by the first mate on the ship. So,
but you follow that, and like the Dunham in this movie, Denham is very very much. I'm so business. I do not care about you, but I don't want you to die. So, like previously,
if that's bad for business.
It's bad for business.
And bad for the picture. You know, you can't make the picture if everybody that's supposed to star in the picture is dead. So.
Yeah, it's not a very good picture at that point.
Dead.
But everybody seems to be so agreeable on the course of actions that need to be taken. Like let's get planes.
Let's get planes. I do enjoy that where they're just like, oh, we did. I do question how they didn't think of this before. Yeah. I mean, I understand it's the 30s. You don't just think of planes as commonly as we might now. And we're not just going to call in the Air Force because we barely have one. But, you know, if you're just throwing things at the wall because there's an extreme circumstance happening, it's just like they just had no thought. He's just like, we could use planes. And they're like, you're right. We didn't even think of that.
And they jump on it like so fast. Well, even when they're on the island and he's like, signal or no signal, we leave at dawn.
Yeah.
And that was him. That wasn't the captain. That wasn't the first mate. Like, he's like, this is important.
He just kind of give the sailors orders that he has no authority to give, and people just kind of, although everybody kind of follows whatever anybody says, because the like Chinese cook guy just like calls everybody on deck, and everybody just comes on deck, and like they've got to know his voice.
Oh yeah.
But I guess, you know, someone yells all hands on the ship, it's serious business.
That's one of my favorite scenes. Because like when you hear something and it's to like you're supposed to react when you hear it, everybody reacts immediately. There's no what's Charlie yelling about now? It's just like, nope, hands on deck, don't matter who, you get to the deck right now, everybody's hustling. And like efficient things were done efficiently because people paid attention and acted the way they should in a circumstance. And thank you, Charlie, even though I don't know if you're actually played by a Chinese man because you're supposed to be Chinese. It's incredibly obvious.
Yeah, it's hard to say, being the 30s and all. Let's see. Well, let's see. His name is Victor Wong.
Wait a minute.
He was born in America, but
Victor Wong sounds very familiar.
Oh, let's see. He's been in a fair number of things, most often uncredited or very small, such as his part is here. Just looking at the names of things, I'm not sure what it might be that you would have known him particularly from. Also, it's kind of a it's a bit of a generic sounding name, so it may be similar to someone else that that you're thinking of instead.
Do you know who Victor Wong was?
Huh?
He's Grandpa Mori Shintaro from the Three Ninjas Kick Back. Yeah, he's Grandpa.
Okay, it's a different guy though.
He's Walter Chang from the Tremors movies.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's not this guy.
He's Egg Shin from Big Trouble Little China. I love that movie.
This guy was last in a movie in 1945, which was also uncredited. Looks like he's got like, let's see, maybe like 9 things out of, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 things that he was actually credited. Not including this. He was also he plays the same character of Charlie the Chinese cook in Son of Kong as well.
Huh.
So, and he does survive, because everybody survives except for that one guy.
But look at all the people
from the ship anyway.
Yeah, from the ship.
That's something.
No, wait, because the people that were on the log were also from. The ship.
The log. Yeah, okay. So only one guy died in like the first bit of it, but then several other guys do
like
get
those.
killed.
Okay, so like you have these people and they're on a log, and it's real actors on what looks like a log. You know, it's probably just a big recreation. And then on the other side of it, you have, I would say, would be Revere.
Paul Revere, the British are coming.
Yeah, Paul Revere. Rear view projecting.
That's silly.
If I can ever say it correctly.
Rear projection.
Rear projection. Thank you. Rear projection of Kong, like picking up that log and rotating it, and so it actually does with these actors on it, and they do fall off. And when each one falls off, it goes into like the claymation model set, and you can just see these bodies just like clump onto the bottom.
And there is something that's important to talk about here, that this is 1933, which is pre-code. So it's pre the production code, which is what made everything in the 40s and 50s. And actually, I guess in the mid to late 30s, pretty much like pretty close after this, I think, that where everything is sort of, you know, married people sleep in separate beds, and like nobody gets killed, and you know, you don't ever see Batman actually punch a guy, and all of the quaintness and you know, Leave It to Beaver-ness of everything for like 30 years of film.
Thank you, Chinese cinema, for not having this problem.
that you sort of think of. There was a time before that. There's, you know, 30 or 40 years of film before that, which is what led to the whatever Catholic Society of America or something or other, that and some other concerned groups of people that were concerned about what people seeing all of this terrible stuff in film was doing to society.
Where are they now?
This, well, they
dead.
They're dead. But this is before that, and it's like really intensely violent.
Oh yeah.
And like you see people get killed, like Kong smashes people and
like just like he puts them in their mouth and like just
puts people in their mouth,
spits them out. And, like, here's this person, I'm just gonna stomp on them.
We see him step on that guy. We see
like
we see the bodies fall to the bottom of Paul Revere, and it's like it's this really like it's really intense, and it's really tough, some of it, even though it's, you know, it's ye old effects and it's black and white. It's like it's much more violent than you think of old movies being.
Well, just think of the fact that it is from 33,
and I feel like it is like this must have been fairly shocking to people.
Oh, I
at
believe
the time, and not that this is the only one that was like this, because it's not like they broke out of the code and made something really, really violent. It's not like the late 60s and early 70s films where things returned to being dark and grit and violence and all that after the end of the code, and after the end of the studio, like the old studio heads and everything, when everything, independent films started becoming possible, released through the major studios. This was going on in a fairly commonplace way. That's where the concern came from. But there is, like, you can understand, even if it's not actually defensible or justified, that some people might have been concerned. Because the other thing is that now, we don't have a production code, but we do have the MPAA, which is what came about later after the death of the code, shortly thereafter, in order to replace it in you can make whatever you want, but people are going to know what they're going to be in for.
Yeah. Which is more fair.
There was nothing like that, so you didn't know what you were in for. You just came
You're going to see a
film.
robot Kong eat people.
You're going to see him eat people, and it's really intense. And I think it's probably the most viscerally violent of the Kong universe
by a leap and a bound.
movies, except maybe maybe Skull Island gets there a little bit, but we're so much more used to seeing it in a modern film context that it isn't as difficult or shocking.
Well, okay, so what I'm going to debate you on this one for is, in the Kong Skull Island, we do get what would be like this action violence, but it's so covered up with not actually seeing anything. It's more like an implication. Like, you see a guy, he's at the mounted gun of the helicopter. We know he's firing at Kong, but we don't exactly see like Kong like just open up and blood go everywhere, or him grab somebody and rip their head off on camera.
Yeah,
we only get like those kinds of elements
because they're going for PG-13.
Yeah, but like this is literally like we witness Kong pick up a guy like on camera, put him in his mouth. We now get a close-up of Kong's mouth with this guy in it being crushed.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they didn't actually crush him, but it's the implication, and we're seeing it.
Yeah.
He's hanging out. He's screaming. We see the jaws close on him.
Yeah, and we see every guy fall off the log and fall all the way to the ground and kind of like bounce in like a limp, dead sort of way, and it's tough.
Yeah, so like comparatively, it's not really violent, because we know it's not. We know it's just lumps of clay that are being dropped, but at the same time, in that time period, these were real people being slaughtered. And it's just like that impact.
Yeah, well, and in the context of the movie, it's people being slaughtered. How whatever effects we need to get there, both on the island and then in the city, and like even like the train, the L train. Pretty sure people die in that too, and actually he I think he eats another or bites another guy, at least one guy in that part too. Yeah. And there is the even them just like firing into the dinosaur, in kind of a repeated way is fairly intense. Now I think my favorite effect. Or the most, I guess it's my favorite also, but like the most effective effect of the like rear projection stuff, especially, is when they do at least think they kill the what is it, Stegosaurus?
Yeah, the Stegosaurus.
And then they're like walking past it for a really long time, and so it's like panning, like it's like a tracking shot. And they're walking along, and it's so like perfectly matched. And they did kind of like not a straight track around the model of the dinosaur when they shot that element of it, that they're kind of like walking around it rather than walking past a flat surface that it's on. It really works, and like you really believe it. And it's the most clear, I think, of the rear projection stuff, because some of it is, as it always is a little bit soft, and so you can kind of tell there's more than one element going on.
Well, I also like the when they're on the bog, like the swamp area, and they're attacked by the brontosaurus.
Yeah.
Because we get two really good shots of it in the distance, kind of raising up, and it's ahead of them, and then like the other one, it appears from their side, which I don't know how it got there that fast.
Yeah.
But it's the like the clarity of it, even though there's all of this fog. Like, it seems to blend in, but at the same time, it stands out enough that you can clearly see what it's supposed to be.
I think the fog is helping with that one. That the fog is covering the softness of the projection a little bit, so that you expect it to be soft because there's fog, and so it just like works together.
And then I think it still looks good all the way until they get to the land, and then once it starts kind of crawling out or walking out, whatever it's supposed to be doing, like when it gets out of the water, it still looks good for a little bit, but then once it like bites that guy in the tree and pulls him out, like at that point, you can then tell it stands out because everything's really cleared up.
Now, I do kind of wonder, because I think all of the effects besides Kong himself work better than the Kong stuff does.
What do you mean?
Like, his stuff is always like, it's a little less believable, or it looks a little more jerky, or it's a little more separated from what's going on, except for when he's pulling her off of the like sacrifice stand. That one really works. I think it's the best of the Kong effects in the whole thing,
especially with his hands, because he has to undo the the hold to actually pull her off, so he doesn't just rip her arms. And like, that looks really good.
And it's her, like it's the actual her, in the center of the. That's probably a matte. That's probably not rear projection, although it might be. But I know this is a little early for it, but I wonder why not for him, which you couldn't really do with the dinosaurs, I guess they're all dinosaurs except for him, aren't they? They're just different kinds.
Yeah.
And the snake, whatever the snake thing is. Why not have suit man technology? Because you could make a gorilla suit. Like, I know that they existed at the time. Why not have him be? Because there has to be and like you would still have to shoot it like mixed scale, and you'd still have to piece it together, but you wouldn't have to worry about the animation of it in a closer to human shape thing that the movement of is much more critical of in order to make it work, where it's not as important with dinosaurs. It's still really good, and it's still really, really like the effects deserve the respect that they've had since the time, and especially in the time. But I do wonder if maybe it.
Well, I'm afraid like the suit man technology would make it look like the Jeff Bridges one.
Maybe, because that is, I guess,
yeah,
that is suit man technology, isn't it? It's not like they would have like thought, well, we can't do that because it'll look like the Jeff Bridges one at the time.
Now, I don't know how I feel about it directly, because like because I watched them out of order of actual release. It's hard for me to not compare them. But when it comes to this one, they have the scene where it's like, we'll trade you 6 of our women for your golden woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so at least they didn't make this up for the Jeff Bridges one. Like, that was a scene that happened in that one. So I'm like, okay, that's a carryover. But it didn't happen in the Peter Jackson one. And I don't know if, like, do I like this scene? Do I not like this scene? Do I like the fact it wasn't carried over? Like, how does it play? Because in the Peter Jackson one, they're really savage. In this one, they're just like a tribe. They have a language. We talk to them.
Yeah, they have a language that apparently someone in some other place has, because the captain knows it from visiting other people, other places, which is kind of odd, because it doesn't seem like. I mean, it must mean that these people didn't always live on this island. Like they came from somewhere else way back in history somewhere.
Probably. Well, he talks about the waters that they were in. Like, he knows that. But then it's like once you go this direction, he doesn't know that
a little bit further.
So they gave us a little bit of leeway for believing that. Let's see here.
He has, like, 2 maps also. I think, unless they just repeated it. Because it seems like he pulls out a map and says, like, this is where the place is.
And then he pulls out another map.
And another one
that's
what
like the island looks like.
Yeah, that it's a close-up of the island.
I'm also kind of glad that the island doesn't look like a skull.
Well, it's sort of like it does a little bit.
The mountain is supposed to have a skull shape in it.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Has kind of a skull shape rather than the island itself being the shape of a skull.
Yeah,
which the like my favorite Skull Island thing is in the Curse of Monkey Island, which is the 3rd Monkey Island game. You go to an island, a little island off the coast of the main island that you're on in that chapter, and like you're told by everyone that it's called Skull Island and that it's frightening to look at, and then you go there and there's like this really dramatic the camera starts way down at the base of the island, and there's like frightening music, and the camera pans further and further up, and then you get to the top of the mountain where the shape is, where you expect it to be shaped like a skull, and it looks like a duck, like the head of a duck. And Guybrush just is like, looks like a duck. Like the guy with him is like, well, if you turn your head and squint, it looks like a skull, and it's scary. And it's like Guybrush is like, it looks like a duck. It's just like there's this build up for like an hour or 2 hours of gameplay trying to get all the puzzles together that you need in order to get him to take you to Skull Island, and then you get there and it looks like a duck. And so it's not spoilers for Curse of Monkey Island, which you should play, although I won't hold it against you if you don't, because it's a little bit difficult to play recently, because it has some very particular late 90s PC game weirdness to it that compatibility with modern computers and OSs is tough.
Yeah.
So it's I haven't played it in several years because it's really hard to get it to run, and I keep hoping that they'll re-release it in some manner where it's easier to play, or that Good Old Games or somebody will wrapper it so that it'll work, but nobody has so far. So it's a bit sad.
So they crashed a real car in this movie.
They did.
Like, I mean, no, that was a real car. He was driving, yeah. And we see this guy like fling over the driver's the steering wheel because he crashes. Because they're coming.
I'm really not sure why he crashes exactly, because he can't really see anything yet. He's just kind of caught in the general panic, I suppose.
Like they come out, like our characters are coming out, and he crashes literally right in front of them.
Yeah, like into the front of the theater.
Yeah.
It's like into the wall of the outside of the theater.
And it's just like, this is 33. Those might have just been stuntmen, but that was a real crash.
It was a real crash, yeah.
Like, holy smokes.
Well, and there is probably a fair amount of people being in some amount of danger because it's the 30s. Although so much of it is stop motion that there's probably not as much danger as it might seem like. Really cooperative press.
Oh yeah,
like they're
best press in the world.
The best press.
Like if only the newspapers acted like this, people would be less angry.
The holy goddamn New York Times.
Yes. It's like they're like, oh, we want to take pictures. Everybody line up. We want to do this. And he's like, whoa, guys.
Wait a minute. Listen, we'll take the pictures over there.
We're gonna take wonderful pictures. Well, what's your story? Well, you're gonna hear the story. What about Beauty and the Beast? That's your story. That's the angle you're gonna go with. But I'm gonna need you all over here. You're gonna be part of the show. You're gonna be the very first people to ever take a photo of this thing. Which seems to be actually true, because it doesn't look like Denham ever got actual footage of this thing.
It doesn't seem like, no, which I think is different, because there is some, doesn't Jack Black get...
carries that bloody camera.
I mean, he carries it everywhere. They carried a fair amount in this, but they do give it up later, and then they're like, let's carry the gas grenades.
Yeah.
And the rifles.
Like this bomb's enough to knock out a elephant. Yeah, be careful with that case of bombs. That's enough to knock out a herd of hippos.
I know
we're escalating really fast.
The intensity of the knockout grenades is like the size of the spider in Earth versus the Spider. Like it changes all the time.
Like, my lord, we're gonna throw one, and then we're just gonna pelt it with lead.
I mean, with the dinosaur, it does. They do knock out Kong, I guess. So it does work.
And it only took one.
It did only.
They didn't have to throw 5 like the other ones did.
They did, I think, keep the design of the gas bomb like at least really close, where it's this like almost cartoon looking shape with like these holes in it, and it looks like something from Osmosis Jones, kind of.
Yeah.
And although I think you need a bigger box of them, because he's got that box that only has 4 in it, and that's what they take to the island the first time.
Well, they've got 2 boxes, which is weird, because they take 1 box with them and then they send back for more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if you're carrying 4, you've only used 1.
There is a brief moment at the beginning where they seem to be concerned about that they're like the authorities are going to search the ship and be concerned about all of this
explosives,
this ordnance, which apparently that's another one of the numbers, because they say that it could blow up the harbor. Which we never see anything that could blow up the harbor, because the gas bombs are not like explosive, and we don't ever see them have dynamite or anything like that. Or and
that's the thing that the Peter Jackson one has, is like they show us the things that they're going to be carrying on this ship because of what this ship is. Wink, wink. And in this one, it's just like...
Which is something that I do not miss at all in this one. The whole, like, third runner of these guys are actually, like, poachers or something, and there's all of this mystery and all of this stuff in the hold, and we're not sure what's going on with them for a long time. Like, I did... That can go, and it's just fine.
Well, one of the first scenes, and I mean, like, the very first scene is, like, the dude who's walking up to the ship, and there's like this dude, and he's like, hey, is this the ship for the so-and-so? And they're like, yeah, this is the ship for the so-and-so, but it's a bit fishy, you see? Like, what do I mean it's fishy? Well, there's this kook on it. What kook are you talking about? It's that Denham fellow. He makes those motion pictures with animals. Mm-hmm. Something about, like, if he just wants a picture
of women.
And if he wants a picture of a lion, he just goes up to the lion and says, smile for the camera, pussycat, and then smacks it and gets that picture. And I'm just like, oh my God, man. Like, what is this? It's New York in the 30s.
It is.
And so it's they get on the boat, and they're talking about, like, there's like 3 times as much crew as a boat needs. And I'm just like, where is this 3 times what is the crew like requirement? 4 people and a cook?
I guess.
Like, there's like 20-something people on here.
That many people. I mean, I don't know what kind of ship it is normally, what they normally do. They don't seem to have specialized equipment that just makes it obvious what they do when they're not
they have racks of rifles.
They do have racks of rifles
in what looks like the captain's area or whatever.
They're probably just a cargo ship or something.
Like, that's what they look like.
The captain
Nothing
seems
special.
to like travel around the various islands, and he's learned the language and stuff, and he knows all about the East Indies. But he
like, why?
And I don't think so many a cargo ship probably doesn't need that much crew. You just need a few guys. But it's not like there's 300 people on the ship or anything, which is what the guy kind of makes it sound like.
Because whenever they're off the boat,
doesn't he see they're shifty or something too?
Yeah, he talks a lot of like 30s smack about these guys. But like when they get off the boat, it looks like everyone got off the boat
the first time.
Yeah, and that's when they go short, and it looks like there's about 20 people or so.
Yeah,
and that's including everybody. And so, I was expecting there just to be like a small militia, ready to like assail this island, and it's like 20 people, including the camera guy, the first mate, and then the actress, and that's about it. And then some dudes who are pretty. Oh, and the cook and the monkey. The monkey. Okay, so our leading lady is on the boat, and she's talking to Charlie, who is our very obvious Chinaman who's peeling potatoes. And she's talking about, Charlie, you're peeling all these potatoes. Like, how many potatoes have you seen? And he gives her, I've seen a lot of potatoes, and then when I'm done, I'm going to go back to China. I'll never ever see a potato again. And I'm thinking, well, you might not ever see a potato, but you're going to see a radish, and you're going to have to peel that radish, because we're not talking about them tiny little red ones. They got some big radishes, and you peel that stuff. So that's not going to do him any good.
In China, radishes peel you.
In China, radishes peel you. No?
Do they not have potatoes in China?
I think they got like the really small ones. It's kind of like how we have reds and we just kind of boil them. We don't do anything to them. I think they got stuff like that.
And you don't have to peel rice.
But then, like, we turn around and she just starts petting this monkey, and I'm like, has this monkey been here the entire time?
I don't think so, because I feel like we had a wide shot, the same one that we get when she reaches down to pet the monkey, and that monkey was not there. We've never seen it before in the rest of the movie. I don't know who it belongs to, and then it goes away, and we never see it again.
Like, someone showed up to the set, they had a monkey, and they're just like, put that monkey in here now. Well, it's not really friendly. We can put a rope on it. We'll tie it to that pole. Just keep it quiet. You know, hand it some nuts or something. And like, we're going to have this lady, and she's just going to, like, really pet this monkey, and then we'll never see the monkey again. Like, but why?
You have no idea why it's there.
It's
not like, is there supposed to be, like, some vague, like, organ grinder thing because he's Chinese, and they just don't ever pull it all together?
Well, I don't even know if that's supposed to be his monkey, because we don't see him with the monkey. It's not near him. It's just
kind of near, but it's nearer to him than to anybody else. But it's not.
Being in a room full of monkeys still makes you close to those monkeys.
It's not tied to him.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so I want to know how the natives are so sneaky on water.
They're real sneaky.
Yeah, they're sneaky. Because, like, okay, if you want to say, well, people can be sneaky in the water, like, yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
You got the U.S. Marines.
Navy SEALs.
Yeah, like, Marines, Navy SEALs, people who are in water, you know, but they're military. They're trained to do that specifically. How often are these people like, no, we have to do ocean stealth missions just to keep up the practice. We don't know when the white man is going to bring big boats and stuff. You know, we got to make sure we can abduct them golden ladies. Like, what is this? There's not a sound. And then I want to know who built the wall, because one of the things that we do share between this one, the Peter Jackson one, and the Jeff Bridges one,
there's a big wall with a gate in it.
There's a big wall. There's a gate. We see the beams, and they have to, like, do that kind of business. That's fine. That's fine. You know, that's the point of a wall and a gate.
Is the Jurassic Park gate, like, supposed to be sort of vaguely inspired on, like, based on the King Kong gate?
Yes.
It's shaped very, very much like it.
Yes. Well, that's why they make the King Kong reference when they go through it for the first time.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
But in this one and in the Peter Jackson one, there is space between the wall. It's like the wall just kind of cuts off. There's this huge deep moat, and they use a bridge to connect to the other side. And we don't really get that one in the Jeff Bridges one. It's mostly just, here's a gate, and then you can just run across. I want to know, because that's the thing. It's like there had to have been something to cause the gap in the land, and then someone had to have the time and the manpower to build said wall as large as it was. And there's steel on this wall.
Yeah, or
like
metal, iron, something. Probably iron, but yeah, because there's like
the facets, and stuff. The hinge, the holders for the actual beams for locking the gate, like that's all metal. So, like, someone obviously built this. This isn't like in Game of Thrones where they built the giant ice wall by, like, hand carrying buckets of water and then pouring it in an area where it freezes and making a wall of ice that way. Like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about, like, people who had to actually make, like, these giant brick, dirt, whatever wall it's supposed to be.
Well,
and then I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, for the one that has Jeff Bridges in it, I don't really remember seeing him having to fight dinosaurs or anything like that. I don't remember that. But I know in this one and the other one, you do fight dinosaurs. But, like, at the point, like, we know Kong will climb the wall, but wouldn't that moat, like that break in the land, be enough to keep the dinosaurs away?
Well, not the Brontosaurus, I guess.
I mean, it's not really going to jump.
No, it's not gonna. I mean, it could get through the moat probably because it's like swimming around.
Like we see like the whole pit thing. Like it's a drop off, not like we're gonna put gators in a moat to protect our castle. Like it's you fall, you die.
I guess it's probably not swimming. I guess it's probably walking on the bottom. Yeah,
it's keeping its head underwater for an unnecessary reason, just to lift its head up.
It's doing kind of like a Loch Ness thing. Which I guess there is the like. It's got the nose on the top of its head thing that I don't know if it's like they show it in this, but like I remember there being a dinosaur like that.
Oh, that was the Brachiosaurus from the first Jurassic Park. Because it sneezes from the top of its head.
Oh yeah.
God bless you.
Okay, so apparently they did actually shoot scenes of big insects and spiders and a big lizard thing and like an extra tentacle thing that then like ate the men that fell off the log instead of them just like laying there on the bottom. But even though it's pre-code, the studio was like, yeah, this is tough. This is heavy stuff. And they cut it out. And
I want to see it.
As far as anyone has ever been able to find, none of the film has survived. And there's been extensive looking, and they did find some things that were cut out or limited in the theatrical prints, or actually no, that were from the theatrical prints rather than the version that existed for a long time, which was the recut version in the 50s for television. And as far as anyone knew, RKO didn't keep original copies of the original of it. But then, as often happens, sometimes film appears or copies of things appear in weird places and weird collections, and it was pieced back together in the 70s, and then eventually an original release print that had survived in the UK was found. That was better quality than the version that they put together in the 70s, and that's the version that exists now, basically, except they found a little bit better quality elements for certain things that they then re-put together in 2005 to re-release as hype for the Peter Jackson one, and that's the version that we have now and the version that we watched. But there are apparently some drawings and a few still pictures from the set and of the models from production that exist, but none of the actual like motion film of those scenes has survived. So they did mean it to be there, but it was cut out. That would have made it like especially long. For this period of time, again, like not that there weren't long movies, but there were sort of off and on long movies, and especially for a movie of this kind, which was also, it was expensive. It had like it was a really expensive movie for the time, almost $700,000, which is about $13 million now, which is a small movie now, but for the amount of difficulty it was to make with all the effects and stuff, it was a big, expensive effects picture for the time, and made a lot of money. Made at the time,
it made
like
so
$5 million
off
of slightly over, almost $750,000 of budget. So it made a lot of money.
But like the movie made a lot of money. Like they hyped the sequel. They made it cheap. They made money off of it.
They made it cheap, and it came out the same year.
Yeah.
So they made it so cheap and so fast. So
products of Kong sold.
Products, yeah.
Like money was made.
Money was made. Now, that we should also mention, just in terms of money, expensive theater tickets to see Kong. The guy says it cost me like $20 for these tickets, which is about $400 now. So I mean, maybe if you're going to see Hamilton or something, not not expensive theater tickets comparatively, but $200 a person for, and I don't know, do we know where their seats were? Were they close? So we don't even know if they were good seats.
But like, okay, so I could have swore there was another scene where Denham handed a guy $20 or whatever.
Does he?
I could have swore he did, because it was something after giving the guy that $1 for the apple or whatever.
$1.
Like, here's a buck. Go away.
Here's a buck.
I could have swore it was like before they left or something like that. I could have swore. I could be wrong. Totally wrong, but still, there's something in my brain that just says that, yeah, he was just handing out money.
Yeah, I'm really not sure, because this is like the fourth version of this story that we've watched now. So it's kind of hard to keep it all straight. Because it's not just that like you saw them out of order originally. We've done them extremely out of order.
Oh yeah, almost backwards.
Almost back, not quite backwards, but almost backwards. Actually, maybe it is back. I think it is back. It is like 100% backwards.
Kong Skull
Island,
Peter Jackson, Jeff Bridges,
this one, yeah.
Original.
So we did do it at backwards, which is a thing that we do sometimes.
Yeah,
but
screw the rules.
Sort of.
I mean, we podcasts.
We've been doing it with the Mission Impossible movies for like 4 yewe now, and we're like 2 movies in, and then we screwed it up because we did the most recent one.
Yeah,
and so we at least in name do the backwards thing, but we didn't mean it that way.
It was an accident. I see every March I'm the one who comes through and picks all these movies, and I didn't even mean to do it this way.
And we didn't do it that way with the Godzilla movies, because we did the first one last year and we did like the middle one this year. Yeah. So
now, because the well, are we almost done? Because if we're almost done, I want to go ahead and share that. Okay, so because the Godzilla King of the Monsters movie is coming out in May, whenever it comes out, we are going to do a show on it, which is to be expected.
Yeah.
But for next year, we'll be doing Shin Godzilla. And so if you're interested in watching Shin Godzilla, it is one of the more recent Godzilla movies. I think it's listed as 2016, but it is a complete Japanese film, so chances are you'll end up having to watch it with subtitles. I don't remember if it received an English dub release, but I know it was distributed by Funimation.
So probably.
So it probably does. I don't remember it being on Netflix, but you should be able to get it through other means. But you have a year, at least.
Looks like on the DVD it does have an English dub.
Oh, there you go.
So, doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it's good.
Some dubs are good and some are not. So, having not heard it, I don't know. Isn't it like that I'm not going to understand really what they're up to, though? Because there's like a lot of inside stuff, and like it's constructed in such a way that it benefits from you knowing a lot of Godzilla stuff already. Like, I've heard that from people, I thought.
Huh?
That like Shin Godzilla should not be like one of your first Godzilla movies.
Oh no, it shouldn't. No, it is a very different movie. But I wouldn't say, like, if you had never watched any Godzilla movie, you could still watch this one. But it's just so vastly different that it is best not to be the first one that you watch.
So how do we feel about stars?
Ooh, I'm going to give this one 5. It's so fun. And it does flow really well.
It does flow really well. And, it's not that we care about importance, especially.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's super important.
I mean, it's real important. But it, it still has the, like, I don't get the, what the girl and the gorilla, like, Beauty and the Beast part of it. But, it's not that much of a deal here.
Well, I think it benefits from the fact that she isn't connected.
She's not
to it.
in on it.
Yeah.
As she shouldn't be.
Yeah, the Peter Jackson one, we get that character
she's
development.
Just frightened,
but this one
and
is
she's
just
trying to escape.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a giant ape thing that's just trying to give her the rape face. So I think that does help it a lot. Which is kind of the way that Skull Island handled it also, in the like one moment that they had where they kind of give each other a look, and she's like, "We shouldn't kill him," and he's like, "The girl," and then,
please don't shoot at me, it hurts.
And then they don't kill him.
And then the skull crawlers show up.
Yeah.
At least it sounded good in my head.
Yeah. I do still think that okay, I'm gonna give it. There's no way I guess that I can't give it 5 stars. Also, although I guess that's not really right to say it that way, because I could dislike it and it would be perfectly legitimate if I just happen to not like it, but I don't not like it.
Well, I think it's the best of the main 3.
It's the best. Okay, so this I think is the best of the 3 non-Skull Island Kong films. I do just really like the accidentalness of Skull Island, where like we didn't go to the island looking for like an extreme kind of thing. We were just like, hey, this is kind of neat. And John Goodman has suspicions, but it's not like this is a real thing. We don't know there's going to be a giant ape over here. We just think there's probably something over here we should look at, but we
need to get to it before the Russians do.
We're just doing 70s science over here, and we're just, we're going to play Vietnam music and or music that lets us know we're in Vietnam in a cinematic context, rather, not music that originates from Vietnam. And we're going to do some stuff, and then here's Kong, and we had no idea. And like, I like the accidentalness much better than we're gonna go to the island and we're gonna make a great picture that the
I think that's the thing that is shared between some of these is the face of confusion, suspense, and horror kind of combined before we actually see what they're looking at. Because you can, like, in Skull Island, you can just kind of see when their eyes glaze over in this shock and disbelief. Because here's Kong, there's the sun. It's just a silhouette of this huge beast. Oh my God, what is this?
So much, like, and I know it's like super generic and it's in a certain way, but it's a great thing.
And then like in this, and I love this scene so much as well. But you have Denham, and he's like running the camera, and they're doing like these portrait shots and everything. And she's in the gold dress, and he's giving her these directions. And there's nothing there. She is simply acting, but it has so much feeling behind it. It's like even you looking at her right behind you could be Kong.
Yeah.
Because like it's her acting in a movie of her acting, and it feels so real. So as he's telling her what to do, you hear it in your own head, and then you kind of feel it yourself, and then you can see it on her face. So everything that she's saying or he is saying, she's doing, and it's just so beautiful of a scene just to show acting. And then we get the scream.
Yeah. We do get the scream. And that's all we have to say about King Kong. And mostly, probably, all we have to say for March this year. There might be an amendments thing coming, but I think it may end up being past March because there's a little bit of prep that we have to do.
Oh yeah,
it's probably going to end up being after, but it's going to relate to March. So we'll see you next time.
Later.